I pressed record, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello?
Hi.
Are you coming to the happy hour? I need to vent.
I'm still at the office.
Oh my god, are you trying to be CEO or something?
Yeah.
You'll get there, but I'll see you at happy hour. We're back and we just were on vacation. We went on a big fun trip to Aspen, Colorado.
Woohoo.
Woo, we were
So
going to
fun.
film there, but
We had too much fun.
We had too much fun and we needed some time off. We're here, we're back.
And we have a new sign.
We have a new sign, which if you're just listening, you need to tune into the video on YouTube because you can see the sign.
Totally.
Okay, Izzy, you know, it's been very cold. It's been
freezing.
Very crazy in our industry. I mean, new president.
Yes.
TikTok
ban.
There's just things happening right and left. So
Brands are doing things.
What are some things brands are doing that you like?
Well,
or that are, you know, surprising you?
Yeah. Well, today I got an email from Stod saying that they're expanding into a new category of like athleisure, more relaxed clothing that's at a lower price point, not like lower than their normal price point, but a more affordable price point for people who love their clothes and want to try something new, which I think is cool. And it's always a little shaky if you're a brand trying to expand into a new category, because who knows if your consumer even likes that category, and who knows if it's a totally different consumer that's gonna like come to your company or your brand through this new category launch.
So true.
Which I find like
you have to have a loyal like customer base.
Totally.
In terms of interesting things brands are doing or extensions, I just saw that Touchland, the hand sanitizer company, is releasing their first like fragrance line, hair and body mist, which I think is super interesting because they're an example of like a challenger brand or challenger category who launched a product that's been around for ages, hand sanitizer, but did it in a trendy way, just with cute packaging, a new kind of formula, and making something trendy. I mean, making hand sanitizer basically looked at as a beauty product. So to see a brand go from hand sanitizer to now a hair and fragrance mist is so interesting. I wonder how that's going to go. You know, you hear a lot of old brands who you never knew they started out as this one thing.
Right.
Like they started off, I think like American Express started out as like a shipping company or something. Really? Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's interesting. This could be a similar story where it's called Touchland, and in ages we're gonna say, oh, you know, they actually started as a hand sanitizer company,
right? But
they're gonna have a million different product lines in the future. So that's kind of interesting.
I think it's genius for them to do that, actually.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, I mean, in my mind, their demographic is like a young teen girl who's like pulling her hand sanitizer out of her cute little backpack at school. Yeah. And that group of people are so obsessed with body mist because they can't really get like a nice perfume yet. Like they're not at that age.
So it's all about body mist.
I feel like they're all like obsessed with like Bath and Body Works body mist, like all those like cheaper ones. That kind of introduces them to fragrance down the line. I don't know.
That's cool. That's true. I feel like hand sanitizer is a good introduction to fragrance too.
I mean, think about it. For us, it was Bath and Body Works. Everyone collected those dumb things. Yeah. Like you pulled out 5 different hand sanitizers, then it's like, oh, what flavor do I want today?
We recently talked about retail on the podcast, and following that conversation, I did go to a Bath and Body Works like a few weeks ago after Christmas with a friend who had never been inside of one. And there's one like in New York, so close to us. And I was like, let's go in there. I haven't been in one since a mall in Houston. Like, I would love to go see it. Like, how is this even still open? Yeah. It was flooded with people inside.
My God, yeah, I bet.
It had so many people. And then they had a salesperson like standing up basically on a stool or something, screaming out the like promotions.
Oh my God.
And people were in there with their boyfriends. Tourists were in there. I was just really shocked that Bath and Body Works still is popping off. And you could tell that there's been a little bit of shift in the categories and products based on what's trending. But for the most part, it like remained the same. And so it's interesting. A lot of times you might grow out of a product or a brand, but that brand might be living on. Question for you.
Yes.
So you work for a fashion brand and TikTok just recently got banned.
Mm-hmm.
Did that have any impact on your industry, or no, not your industry? Did that have any role on the company or the marketing?
Not for us. We're not a TikTok heavy brand.
Okay.
I don't even really think that we post much on there because our consumer's not on TikTok.
Yeah.
Our main demographic's not on TikTok, or they're looking elsewhere or whatever. But for brands that rely so heavily on TikTok, I could imagine it is so scary.
Yeah. So scary.
Because I mean, with TikTok Shop, you can make so much money.
TikTok Shop, I was just thinking a lot about TikTok Shop and people who are probably quitting their jobs to go into TikTok Shop. Or, I mean, obviously there's a lot of creators and influencers. Yeah. I saw something the other day about what this teaches like influencers in the creator economy is to have range and have like kind of put your eggs in a bunch of baskets. Like, don't just put all your eggs into TikTok.
Yeah.
You need to be dabbling into all the apps that are relevant to you and where your audience is. But if you just put everything into one platform, like it's a good learning. Yeah, it could go away. Just like Vine did, just like basically like Twitter kind of, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, these apps are going to change and new apps are going to come out.
Totally.
But I think that this was an interesting reflection. I don't think that humans have ever been as interested in an app as they are with TikTok. And it was really crazy to see, you know, everyone's reaction.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was laughing at all these influencers who were posting their like secrets or like whatever before the ban, and then it's just back. Like, and they just spilled all their tea, and they were like, "Oh, never mind."
I also wonder for me, because I'm, you know, in advertising, and a lot of times how the like advertising world works is you pitch businesses. So let's say McDonald's wants a new agency to do their TikTok. Like, they might hire an agency solely just for TikTok.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of agencies out there who have literally been put on a retainer to run a brand's TikToks.
Yeah.
They've hired people to do the TikToks. They've hired content creators just for a specific brand. And I think a lot, I'm like, wow, what the heck happened there? Like, what are these agencies going to do that have really leaned into content creation and TikTok? So it's kind of a scary time to see what happens. And TikTok, it's not just an app going away. Like, it can affect people's careers, but that's why you have to pivot. You have to have a growth mindset, and you have to think about a plan B.
Yeah,
if that's your career in TikTok. Because I mean, a lot of my work and how I got started was making like TikToks for brands. And it's a skill. It's a skill that a lot of people have learned. And so hopefully TikTok does stay, but it kind of lets you reflect and just think about, from business or career standpoint, gotta have a backup.
Totally. I mean, it was like so weird to see that pop up come on my TikTok.
So weird. I didn't think it would be real.
Like, someone on the other end just pressed one button and ended TikTok for every single person in America.
Crazy. Actually crazy.
And then you go back on. I remember going back on it, and I was like, guys, TikTok's back.
It's fine. TikTok is fine.
Like, it's alive and well. So TBD, we'll see what happens with TikTok.
Okay, let's go back to our Aspen trip, because Aspen's a unique place in terms of marketing, branding. It's so small, and there's tons of stores there. They do a lot of pop-ups there. I don't even think that the brands really advertise their happenings there. Yeah. It's so discreet. And it's kind of interesting. Like, Revolve does a heavy activation there. Yeah. They host private events similar to like Coachella. All these things are extremely exclusive, but like, that just brings up a topic overall of what are your thoughts on brands, you know, participating in those niche or more luxurious audiences, and like what brands have a presence there, should have a presence there, versus like what shouldn't. And especially with a small town like that, you know, what are your thoughts?
I think it's interesting when brands have like a permanent store there. Yeah. Because it's such a like tourist vacation spot, and none of the locals are going into the Aspen town and shopping.
No, yeah.
They're like staying away. And the locals there are not going to spend like the tourists and vacationers there. So like I get it why they are wanting a store there, because all the people that go there are so posh.
Yeah.
But like the thing is our people can buy these same products where they're from. You know,
true.
Every single store that was there basically has a store in New York. Every single store that was there has a store in LA.
But these stores are themed. They're like winter themed.
They are themed.
That's crazy.
That is true. And I think that the one store that probably makes the most money in that place is the Kimosabe, the hat.
The hat.
Because
Explain that if someone doesn't know.
Every single person in Aspen wears these Western looking hats with feathers coming out the side with weird bands on them.
Yeah.
With their initials like welded into the hat.
They're like $1,000 hats.
They're so ridiculous. I can't get over them. But I mean, it's a genius model that they have, because you can personalize these hats.
Yeah.
So people are willing to spend so much money because they're like, oh, my hat's not going to look like every other person's hat. And I think the whole experience of that store, getting your thing like welded into it, you can take a video of it and post it online.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of why people buy those hats and go to that store to get them, because they want that like exclusive experience of getting this hat in Aspen. And I think that's where brands can really like tap into these more exclusive markets like Aspen. If you have like an experiential store, you're probably going to do better than a regular retail
especially
store.
On vacation, because you're already looking for souvenirs. I mean, I think that less touristy towns doing those sort of customization themed like activations don't do as well than tourist towns, because you already want a souvenir. You want to remember the vacation.
Totally.
So if you do something where you can actually like customize it, or even stores having like custom products, like if you go into these stores and they're selling, you know, just a winter collection line that's only
it's
their
an exclusive product to that store.
Smart marketing.
It's genius, I think. And I think it's smart to do like a seasonal shop there.
Yeah,
like
a seasonal pop-up.
Because you're not investing into these 10-year leases.
Well, brands are doing pop-ups now in Aspen, which I don't think like that's always been a thing there.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And it's kind of interesting to see brands in like around different places do pop-ups in these smaller towns, and not just like in a New York or LA.
Totally.
There's even a lot of pop-ups happening in Houston now, or Austin or whatever. I mean, Austin is popping for retail. A lot of brands want to be there, but I'm just saying like
totally
brands are showing their presence in more spaces for retail.
Another thing we were talking about this at work, which I think is super cool, and that's happening in the market, in like the contemporary space, whatever, right now, is that some brands are opening small, like teeny tiny shops, but like just for their denim line, or like just for their sunglass line. So it's like you come to this store, but you can only buy our sunglasses here.
You could buy everything else online.
Exactly. But it like makes more of like a concept, like it's more fun to go there because it's only for this product.
Yeah. You're not overwhelmed by all the products.
And it's not like all the same stuff you can get everywhere else.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool, and I think that's more brands are going to start doing that, which is exciting. It's
super exciting.
It like makes retail fun again.
Yeah, definitely.
But are these Aspen stores profitable? I don't know.
Yeah, probably not.
I didn't really see many people checking out.
I know. Okay, so another thing that we were talking about is just in general, going on vacation when you do have a full-time job comes with a lot of stress.
It is so stressful.
Because we've taken vacations before we had like this serious of a job.
Yeah.
And it was like a lot more relaxing, but once you do have a full-time job, it's really stressful to take off vacation. First of all, it's stressful to ask your boss for time off. It's stressful to like actually decompress and
hard
not
to
worry.
Unplug from work.
It is. If everyone else isn't off and you're the only one, it's stressful.
It's so stressful. I mean, I was checking my email every single day.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, whoa, what's happening at work? This is crazy. But like, I didn't want to chime in because I'm on vacation, you know? But, and I mean, you see people on the airplanes working.
Yeah.
People in the airports are working. I've done it before.
Okay, I have a new thing with this.
What is your theory?
I have a bone to pick. I think we should ban working at airports. Like doing computer work or responding emails on the plane or at airports. I think that as a collective, we should decide against that. Airports are already so stressful enough.
I know.
And like having to plug your computer, open up the computer,
connect to the Wi-Fi, buy the Wi-Fi.
Oh my God, it's so stressful when you're already so stressed about traveling. I hate it.
Yeah, especially traveling to like Colorado in the winter time. My Lord, we had so many issues going there and coming home. It was so stressful. I couldn't even imagine trying to work during that.
No.
But I mean, I get it. Maybe my one exception to that new thing is if you're on a work trip, maybe it's okay to work on the plane. Maybe.
If it's a work trip.
We'll
give it that.
But if it's for your own leisure, just unplug. Even though it's very hard to do.
So hard. But yeah. So
the Super Bowl is coming up.
We're
not really big football girlies, but I know you like to watch the Super Bowl to watch the ads.
It's so fun to watch the ads. It's been just really cool to see how commercials are made when I started my job. Because I work with a lot of people who have made some of the most notable Super Bowl commercials.
So cool.
They wrote the script for them, or they, planned the storyboards. They picked the talent to be in the ad or whatever. And it's been really cool to see the behind the scenes of how commercials are made. I mean, they're made similar to like TV production. Yeah. It's a huge production and they're planned to the T, and
just for like a however many minute long spot.
Exactly.
Or seconds. Like how long are the average commercials?
I'm not really sure, but in this day and age, I think Super Bowl commercials have shifted. It's not just about the commercial. It's about the full experience. You have to think about every digital touch point with your spot, or else it's just a spot. So the Michael CeraVe ad last year was an amazing example. It won a Cannes, and I mean, it's going to go down in history as one of the best campaigns. And what made it so great is that they teased up the ad before it happened with gifting, with capturing Michael Cera with bags of CeraVe, whatever, like all these social media extensions that got a lot of buzz before the commercial, and so it was just like a good lead up. And for example, I mean, Verizon doing the commercial last year with Beyonce, and it was like a Beyonce album drop or something. Like tying to other cultural moments. It has to be a full 360 experience. Or it just has to be hella creative. Like creativity will always win if it's, empowering. A good creative can be impactful, but I mean, just be clever. And it's hard to get, if you think about these spots, like it's so easy for the audience to judge them and say, oh, that spot kind of sucked, or like that commercial sucked, because you don't understand, like when you are at an agency, how much work goes in, how hard it is to sell the ad to the client. I mean, they're strict. Also, I'm sure most people don't know that like most brands aren't doing the commercials. Like you see this commercial and you're agency. Like, oh my gosh, State Farm, that was so great. But no, it's a whole agency that does the commercial, and they have to sell it to the client. And a lot of times, clients are old school, or maybe they're, legal won't let something get past. I mean, there's a lot of limitations. So it's hard. Don't judge so much when you watch Super Bowl commercials.
I mean, I can only imagine how hard it is to be super creative under such strict guidelines. Yeah, I know, right? That's a really good point. Because it's like the client wants this crazy creative, amazing, like attention grabbing commercial, but then they have all these rules. So the agency's like really pinched for like, wait, I can't use my full brain because I can't think outside of this rule. Like, you really have to stretch your creativity. I can only imagine. Yeah, that's so true. That's crazy. But going back to the whole Michael Cera thing and like that whole like expanding past just the ad, I mean, I think first of all, that's a lot of money that they're spending. A lot of money. Alone with the commercial, but also with all the gifting, with all the buzz, all these things. But it's smart because we're still talking about it. We're not talking about the Buffalo Wild Wings commercial that only played a few times. Like, no, that's not stuck in our head. It's not going to stick in your head. Totally. But I think I mean, I'm sure you're seeing more and more brands expanding past just the commercial.
Yeah, and the other thing, what I think that's interesting with commercials and Super Bowl commercials is it's an opportunity for any brand who might be falling off to like make a comeback again. And I think when you're choosing whether or not you should invest in this expensive of an opportunity, like where does your brand sit in culture? Because most people are tuning into the Super Bowl in the U.S. Totally. A lot of the United States is tuning in, and you're going to reach a lot of eyeballs. So if you have the funds and you
do it,
just do it.
Totally. I mean, even like we're going to watch the Super Bowl. We don't ever watch football.
No.
Like, it's such like it's such an interesting thing to me because it's so like celebrated in America, even for people who don't even care about the sport really. But it's just an what's the word? It's just like an excuse to have a party.
So I have a follow-up question as we're talking about sports. What are your thoughts on the women's sports industry? Because women in sports is growing tremendously. My agency's been really honing in on a like strategic report that kind of wraps up all the sector as it's growing. And what are your thoughts? And have you seen any cool collaborations in the space?
I haven't really been following women's sports much lately. I mean, I grew up watching women's soccer. Like, I was obsessed with the women's national team. And I know, I mean, with all women's sports, they're fighting so hard to get equal pay and to be treated the same as the men's sports. But it's hard for them because these companies that, like, own the sports teams or, like, are the federation that's in charge of the whole league, like, they look at the men's sports and they're like, so many people care about this team, like, blah, blah, blah. But the women don't have that same, like...
I know. But things are changing.
Things are changing. Like, the women's soccer team they got equal pay.
Yeah.
But their fight's not over. Which,
no.
I mean, it's crazy how much that they have to fight for it. I mean, it's ridiculous in my opinion. But we're moving up. But I haven't seen any collabs. Have you?
I see a lot, actually. And what I think is interesting about women's sports is it's the first sector that has so many different extensions. Like, you think about male sports and it's a little restricted. You're thinking about in terms of partnerships and collaboration, it goes to like energy drinks, right, to, you know, banking or whatever it is, and it's
or
this
like
little
tech
companies. Think of women's sports. I mean, beauty brands.
True.
Like Charlotte Tilbury's collaborating with F1.
Oh, cool.
And you think of, I mean, there's basketball players who are, you know, making their own beauty line.
Yeah.
Or for just specifically for women athletes, which is super cool. And it's the first kind of category that has all these extensions. You know, there's women's sports like fashion capsule collections, or right, there's those shirts that says like everyone loves women's sports or whatever, and there's a whole cultural movement around this subject, because first of all, the biggest myth ever was that no one likes to watch women's sports, but that is completely being debunked, and some recent sports events have been like the highest tuned in sports events ever. Wow, which is crazy. Great. And so people just haven't been paying attention in the media, but behind closed doors, so many people are watching women's sports. And
totally.
Caitlin Clark was definitely, what paved a lot of this. And similar to like gymnasts and the Olympics and tennis and everything. But, you know, it's something that every brand should start keeping more of an eye on because it's something to invest in.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And like even coming from like a fashion lens, like fashion is in sports.
It is.
Their outfit that they get off the bus and go into the stadium, they're always flexing. Like they're dressed to the nines to walk into the stadium. Yeah. And they're waiting for that press picture of like, oh, this is my walk-in outfit. And brands should really tap into that.
They should.
Because it is like a more niche like market, I feel like.
Yeah. But
it's powerful because these sports teams create such a cult following.
They do.
And
the athletes themselves.
Yeah. And like, I mean, people, our generation, younger generations, they're purchasing, like, they're looking for trust. They want to trust the brand. So if somebody that they idolize on this sports team is wearing or using this product or collaborating with this brand, they're going to go buy it.
They are. Yeah.